the ambitious sparrow, and the patient oak. In the heart of Willowbrook Forest stood an ancient oak tree, whose branches stretched so wide they could shelter half the woodland creatures at once. The elder oak, as all the animals called him, had weathered countless seasons, and his deep voice carried the wisdom of centuries. Every morning, rabbits, foxes, deer, and songbirds would gather beneath his mighty canopy to seek his counsel. One bright spring day, a young sparrow named Pip fluttered into the grove. His feathers gleamed with youth, and his eyes sparkled with ambition. As he perched on a low branch, he watched in amazement as a parade of animals approached the elder oak with their troubles. "Wise oak," said a worried rabbit, "my burrow flooded in last night's rain. Where should I build a new home?" The oak's leaves rustled thoughtfully. "Little friend, look for the hill where the morning sun first touches the earth. But evening shadows fall quickly. There the soil drains well, yet stays cool in summer's heat." The rabbit's ears perked up with gratitude, and she bounded away with purpose. Next came a young fox, his tail drooping with sadness. "Elder oak, the other foxes won't include me in their games. What should I do?" "Patience, young one," the oak replied gently. "True friendship cannot be forced like spring flowers in winter snow. Show kindness without expecting return, and in time, bonds will grow as naturally as my roots." Pip watched animal after animal receive wisdom from the great tree, and with each exchange, jealousy grew in his small chest like a thorny vine. "Why should this old stump get all the respect?" he chirped to himself. "I've flown over mountains and valleys. I've seen cities and oceans. Surely I could be just as wise and honored." The next morning, Pip positioned himself on the highest branch he could find and called out in his shrillest voice, "Attention, forest creatures! I, Pip the well-traveled sparrow, am here to share my vast knowledge with you all." A few animals glanced up, mildly curious, but most continued about their morning routines. Undeterred, Pip began reciting every fact he'd ever heard. "Did you know that humans build their nests from stone and wood, and that the great water beyond the eastern mountains has no other shore visible? I've learned these things through my extensive travels." An old badger shuffled past without stopping. "That's nice, young bird," he mumbled, "but I need to know where to find grubs, not tales of distant places." Pip's enthusiasm only grew stronger. When a lost fawn approached the elder oak asking for directions home, Pip swooped down first. "No need to bother the old oak. I know these woods well. Simply fly northwest until you reach the tallest pine." The fawn blinked her large eyes. "But, sir, I cannot fly." "Oh," Pip stammered, his feathers ruffling with embarrassment. "Well, then, run very fast." The elder oak's gentle voice drifted down. "Young fawn, follow the stream song upstream until you hear the woodpecker's rhythm on hollow bark. There you'll find the meadow path that leads to your mother." The fawn thanked the oak and trotted away, leaving Pip feeling smaller than ever. Day after day, Pip tried to prove his worth. He interrupted the oak's conversations, corrected other animals' stories, and boasted about his adventures to anyone who would listen. But instead of gaining respect, he found the other creatures avoiding him. Even the chattiest squirrels would find urgent acorn business whenever he approached. Then came the night of the great storm. Black clouds rolled in like mountains tumbling from the sky, and winds howled through the forest with a voice that seemed to come from the earth's angry heart. Rain fell in sheets so thick that even the sharpest eyes couldn't see beyond their own whiskers. Lightning split the darkness, and thunder shook the ground. All the forest animals huddled together beneath the elder oak's broad canopy, but even his massive trunk groaned under the wind's assault. Smaller trees bent nearly horizontal, and branches crashed down like giants' clubs. "Elder oak!" cried a family of raccoons. "The creek is rising fast. Should we flee to higher ground?" "Oak!" squeaked a colony of field mice. Our burrow entrances are flooding. What do we do? Pip, desperate to finally prove his worth, flew frantically from group to group. Don't worry. I know about storms. I've seen them from above the clouds. You should. But as he looked at the rising water and falling debris, all his memorized facts seemed as useless as autumn leaves in winter wind. He had no idea how to help anyone survive this crisis. The elder oak, despite the storm's fury, spoke with calm authority. Raccoons, climb to the cave behind the waterfall. It sits above even the highest floods. Mice, gather your families and follow the mole tunnels to the old badger set on Rocky Ridge. Deer, lead the smaller creatures along the ridge path, where the ancient pines will shelter you. One by one, the animals followed the oak's guidance to safety. As the last rabbit disappeared into the storm, Pip found himself alone with the great tree, feeling more foolish than he ever had in his short life. "I'm sorry," he whispered through the wind and rain. "I thought I was wise, but when everyone needed real help, I had nothing to offer." The oak's voice was gentle despite the storm's roar. "Little Sparrow, do you know how I gained the wisdom they seek?" Pip shook his head, water dripping from his bedraggled feathers. "Not from traveling to distant places or collecting facts like shiny pebbles," the oak explained. "I grew wise by standing still for 300 years, watching and listening. I learned from every storm that tested me, every drought that taught me patience, every animal whose story added to my understanding. Wisdom isn't gathered quickly. It's grown slowly like my rings, one season at a time." When morning came and the storm passed, Pip made a choice. Instead of perching high and calling for attention, he settled quietly on a low branch near the oak's base. When animals came seeking advice, instead of interrupting, he listened. When they shared their troubles, instead of boasting about his own experiences, he asked thoughtful questions. "How did you know your burrow would flood again?" he asked the rabbit. "What made you realize the other foxes were avoiding you?" He wondered aloud to the young fox. Slowly, day by day, Pip began to understand not just what had happened to these creatures, but why it mattered to them. He learned that the rabbit had lost 3 homes to flooding and was looking for more than just a dry place. She needed security. He discovered that the young fox wasn't really asking about games, but about belonging. As the seasons turned, something wonderful happened. The other animals began to include Pip in their conversations, not because he demanded attention, but because he had become genuinely interested in their lives. His questions showed he cared, and his quiet presence became a comfort. One autumn day, a newly arrived chipmunk approached the grove. "Excuse me," she said to Pip. "You seem wise. I'm new to this forest. Where might I find a good place to store nuts for winter?" Pip felt a warm glow in his chest, but before answering, he glanced at the elder oak, who nodded encouragingly. "Well," Pip said thoughtfully, "I've noticed the other chipmunks have success near the beech grove on the southern slope. But let me ask, are you looking for one large storage place, or do you prefer to scatter smaller caches?" As the chipmunk explained her preferences, Pip listened carefully, just as he had learned to do. And when he finally offered his advice, it wasn't to show off his own cleverness, but to truly help a fellow creature find her way. The elder oak's leaves rustled with what sounded remarkably like approval, and Pip realized he had finally found something worth more than all the admiration he had once craved. The quiet satisfaction of wisdom earned through patience, humility, and genuine care for others.